Okay, a little bit of negative showing to start the day, but this is turning positive right now at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Let's do our first crossover to Temple Ashaju this morning to look at the market. Temple, this is the morning after the entire political or elections tribunal, then the VAT announcement, and the MTF conversation with the Ministry of... What are you hearing on the trading floor right now? What's the main discuss? Is it politics or what lies ahead with the VAT, Budget 2020, MTF 2020, 2022? What are the big stories you're hearing?
Well, it's more about the markets, boosting. I mean, the budget, if that becomes more realistic in the system, then it's a plus for traders here on the floor of the stock exchange. And, of course, for those that are doing remote trading. The politics is out of it, as things were. I mean, it's tribunal. It was tribunals, the outcome of the tribunal that they heard yesterday, and that's politics. If it's appealed or not, that's none of this traders' business here. What they're here for is to meet their targets, is to make profit for their clients, is to also create more wealth for those that subscribe to their products and, of course, their services.
Yes, sir.
I think their interest is more in the area of budgets, the MTF and all of that, the more it comes out. For VAT, 7.5%, which is something that has just been announced. I mean, they've been debating that as well to see how it will impact on the policy. But I'll tell you something, stockbrokers here don't want the VAT on capital market transactions.
Yes, the VAT, the 5% initial or previous a program that expired, the government hasn't really said anything about it. The market community has spoken to the issue that they want the reinstatement of that exemption of 5%. Now the VAT will go to 7.2%. There's no date set for that. I'm sure this is going to be one very big head-scratching story for traders, investors, and everyone. Whatever I do on the marketplace, it was 5%. I'll now have to pay additional 2.2% on my stock market transactions. This is going to be weighing very heavily on investors' mind here and overseas.
Sure, Boston. It will lead to some kind. It could lead to some kind of rejigging of portfolios again, because sometimes in July down to early part of August, when the expiration of that exemption actually happened, we saw some foreign portfolio investors and even a few domestic investors that became jittery, given the position that hasn't been made about that particular initiative of government. So, but since nothing has been said about that, right about now it looks like the Minister of Finance focus is on how they will recover the funds from the state governments, what has been given to them over time to support. So, brokers are basically, calculating, putting one and two together, see where things will go next at the Federal Ministry of Finance. Right now, everyone is just weighing their options. Which also explains the reason why a lot of investors are being very, very speculative on equities and investing very cautiously at the short end of the curve when you talk about the fixed income side of the market.
This is going to be a lot of thinking through right now for everyone looking at the VAT issue of 7.2%, because, again, it just raises the cost of doing business on your market straight across the board.
It does.
And that goes.
Bossing. I mean, that's the real concern.
That's the real concern. But as we're starting today, I just saw the numbers moving a little bit from red to green. Yesterday, the banking sector, industrials and consumer goods were in a positive territory, giving the market that first gain so far this week. Where did that come from, really? What's this word on the street?
Oh, yeah. So we saw a lot of investors yesterday looking the way of medium to large caps stocks in the market. That explains the positive move we saw around the banking segment of the market, where you saw investors keying into FCMB, Fidelity Bank, the likes of Wema Bank, the likes of Sterling Bank, that all rose yesterday. The only tier 1 bank that was in that category yesterday was Access Bank. And so basically, we've seen less activities around these counters in the past few days, past few sessions in the market. So investors did some kind of bargain hunting on all of these counters, and they were able to actually bet on it. That's what we saw yesterday. Detail for the consumer goods side of the market, where Nestle actually gained some 3.7% yesterday. Recall that the session before, we had seen Nestle actually down to 1,080 naira in the market. But yesterday was able to add some 3.7% to the share price. And of course, oil and gas for Seplat yesterday, that was able to push up the indices of that sector up to 2.82% for the oil and gas sector because Seplat gained some 5.63%. The session before, we also saw Seplat, made some addition up onto 400 and something naira in the market. Now I think it's around the 500 and something naira, which is the usual resistance support level for this particular stock. Recall that for that, there was a company-specific story around that, around Seplat regarding the chairman of that company. But since the resolution was reached, the investors were able to renew their confidence on Seplat. So basically, that was the drive. Those were the drivers for all of those sectors yesterday in the market. And of course, it translated to something positive for the oil share index because, again, the equity capitalization added some 20 billion naira plus yesterday, Bosun.
Yeah, but it looks like we can't, we will continue to have the insurance folks in our crosshairs moving forward based on their recapitalization. That was a big decline, 1.25% for this very sector yesterday. Yes, some big names are there, but if you look at the entire size of the market cap of the entire insurance sector, is very small compared to other big sectors like consumer goods, industrials, banking, oil and gas.
1.25% decline yesterday on the insurance side of the markets, Bosun, yesterday, because given the recapitalization exercise, as you said, it's been rattling that sector, and that has put a lot of investors on the speculative side. Investors put money on some stocks, and they just calculate the devaluations. They see if it's been able to yield them some 5 to 7%. They pull out of the market, leaving it for re-entry for some other smart investors. So that's the sense we've been seeing in the market. If you look at the year-to-date performance of the insurance side of the market, it shows increased activity. Year-to-date, they've done more than a lot of other sectors that you have in the market. That is because of the activities that we've been seeing around the insurance sector in the market. So the speculative trading that we've been seeing there has been able to, lead to bargain hunting. At the end of the day, you see a bit of profit taking, entry and re-entry of some investors in the market, foreign portfolio investors and domestic portfolio investors. There, exchanging a lot of transactions on that side of the market. So yesterday basically was more of profit taking. If by the end of today we're likely to also see a little bit of gain on that side of the market again, that translates to some kind of bargain hunting again on some of the counters that you have on that side of it. Because again, if you look at the reports that has been churned out by some analysts in the market, they've been saying that this recapitalization is going to lead to, mergers and acquisition on that side of the market, the insurance market. We're going to have a reduction of the 59 numbers of insurance companies and underwriters that we have in the system to about 25 in Nigeria. And that will put a lot of speculative action on the listed companies, I think about 27 of them that we have in the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Bosun.
All right, Temple, thank you so much. Let's wrap up the show on that note. Thank you so much, live from the Nigerian Stock Exchange trading floor. Let's continue from here tomorrow, Friday, and wrap up your business, economy, and markets week.